buenas a todos, chavales. Otro jueves más con el Inside de Star Citizen. En esta ocasión se llama Arena Reborn, el renacer de la arena, parte 1. Quieto un momento ahí.
Earlier this year, we introduced you to the Arena Commander feature team, newly created.
A principios de este año os introducimos al equipo de Arena Commander y Discolando está metido en un cockpit, efectivamente, con una serigrafía o algo así de AX Dynamics en una silla de Monster Touch, creo, con monturas de Monster Touch y con dos Constellation Alpha Prime, más el panel que tengo yo, más otro panel a mayores.
With some familiar and friendly faces to take the long-ignored dogfight module and bring it up to date with today's advances in the persistent universe, as well as see if we can't restore some of that feature and technology testbed intention from its earliest incarnations. And
claro, además, una de las cosas, los objetivos que se persigue es restaurar ese lugar de pruebas, ¿no? Ese lugar de pruebas que antaño se utilizaba.
The very first parts of those labors are currently scheduled to arrive in the upcoming Alpha 320 in the biggest update Arena Commander has seen since it was first introduced. So let's throw it now to Duncan and Sam as they represent some of the work their team's been up to in the first of two back-to-back episodes we're calling Arena Commander, Air, Space and Racing, followed by Foot, Tonk and Testing, Part 1, the first.
A ver, que me está volviendo loco, un momento.
Space and Racing, followed we're calling Arena Commander, Air, Space and Racing, followed by Foot, Tonk and Testing.
A lo que nosotros llamamos, vamos a hablar de la primera parte de lo que nosotros llamamos Arena Commander Aeroespacial.
Air, Space and Racing, followed by Foot,
Aeroespacial y Racing, seguido de pie.
Tonk and Testing, Part 1, the first half. If that's not all there on the thumbnail, I got overruled.
Arena Commander is this game within a game, which lets us take these super fun, awesome moments that we've all experienced in the PU and get them down into this short, fun snippet of 10, 15 minutes, hop in, hop out.
I think the most fun about Arena Commander is that you get to just jump in and play the game that you want to play. You don't have to spend time collecting all the stuff that you need to go out. You just pick a thing and you start playing it.
Claro, están haciendo que el Arena Commander al final es pillar esas fracciones del universo concentrado, ¿no? en lo que es un lugar en el que no tenemos que preocuparnos de equiparnos ni nada. Me llama la atención la forma en la que lo dicen, ¿no? Porque precisamente lo que queremos la gente que jugamos el universo persistente es esos latigazos que te da el juego de que te dicen, ¿quieres hacer esto? Pues tienes que hacer esto otro.
It lets people get down and dirty without the repercussions that you experience in the PU.
Claro, al final es efectivamente una simulación dentro del verso, que es lo que sabemos, ¿no? Y que sin las repercusiones de lo que tiene en el universo persistente. Y por eso comentaba que el otro día también que esto es bastante importante. El Arena Commander es algo bastante importante, sobre todo para la peña que no tenga tanto tiempo, que puede atraer también a jugadores que no busquen complicarse tanto durante la semana con lo que es el universo persistente y disfrutarlo el fin de semana, ¿no? Pues esa gente que no tenga tanto tiempo puede ser algo interesante.
Is it possible for Arena Commander to help the development of Star Citizen?
Yes, it can be used for testing things that aren't quite in the PU yet, but will be soon. And it can be used for testing things that are already in the PU.
As we get closer and closer to Death of a Spaceman, it becomes a vital part of everyone's time. And
Claro, totalmente de acuerdo. Dice por un lado, le pregunta a Discolando que si esto va a poder ser utilizado para poder hacer pruebas para el universo persistente, si ayudará al universo persistente. Dice que sí, que se podrán probar incluso mecánicas que todavía no estén introducidas en el universo persistente y experimentar con cosas. Y aparte, el hecho de que a medida que la muerte cobra más importancia, esto tiene una importancia vital.
in Star Citizen, be it you just want to practice your flight controls, you want to practice racing, you want to get better at dogfighting or FPS combat, you should be looking at Arena Commander to practice these things so that you...
Claro, está diciendo que para la hora de practicar nuestras habilidades, tanto de pilotaje como de FPS, ¿no? De disparar en primera persona y demás, deberíamos de estar mirando este escenario, sería el escenario ideal de cara al futuro.
You don't lose everything when you
Para no
do it in
perderlo
PU.
todo, ¿no? Ahí está.
Last time on ISC, we talked about all the things that we wanted to do and we were currently working on. The whole laying the foundations idea that we just needed to hunker down, get these refactors done so that we can start working on some amazing content which we have lined up. Now I'm glad to be in ISC again to talk about that content which we have been working on since.
Ok, están diciendo que en el anterior Inside Star Citizen nos están hablando de los menús y todo el recurso necesario para poder preparar la plataforma del Arena Commander para poder meter el contenido que están pues entusiasmados de poder enseñarnos ahora. Parece que nos van a hablar del contenido ese que tenían preparado, ¿no?
Before we get started, I want to shout out the team. I've got a list here so I don't forget anyone. We've got Adam, Adrian, Bryn, Corwin, Kirk, Mark, Ricky, Samuel, Sean, hi Sean, and Simon, all working extremely hard, and everyone else and all the other teams that have been extremely helpful in helping us get to where we are today.
Están agradeciendo a los miembros del equipo, nombrándolos también de una lista, ¿no? Para decir que bueno, que todas estas personas han estado involucradas en lo que es el trabajo que nos van a mostrar.
So let's take you through the flow from the beginning to the end. So the front end, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, multiple screens, an absolute pain to get through. We want to clean up that experience, get rid of all this flash clunkiness and unnecessary wait times between screens.
Claro, quieren deshacerse de todo. Mirad, ya vemos, nos estaban mostrando lo que teníamos antes y ahora estamos viendo que ya solo hay Arena Commander, que no hay Star Marine y que se quieren deshacer de esos menús inútiles de Flash antiguos, ¿no? Que no sirven para nada.
With the new front end, we've consolidated everything essentially into one place for everything that you want to do.
The first thing you'll see is Star Marine and Arena Commander have merged together in a single nice clean interface.
You can play any FPS game mode, any dogfighting game mode, whatever you want, essentially. It's all in that one place.
So we've taken
Ya nos está mostrando que aquí tenemos todo, o sea, podemos configurar todo, podemos escoger el modo que queramos de juego, tanto de Star Marine como de Dogfight, todo lo que queramos hacer que tenga que ver con el Arena Commander y el Star Marine en un solo espacio, ¿no?
a more diegetic approach. We've got a better 3D representation of pretty much everything. We've got a 3D representation of the ship or loadout that you've got selected, and more layers upon this, what was originally a 2D UI, very flat. We want to bring it in line with the diegetic approach that we have across all of Star Citizen and unify it. So patch notes are now included in the game, so you have quick
Esto es interesante, esta parte vamos a volver a escucharlo un momentito porque esto es importante, ¿eh?
got a 3D representation of the ship or loadout that you've got selected, and more layers upon this, what was originally a 2D UI, very flat. We want to bring it in line with the diegetic approach that we have across all of Star Citizen and unify it. So
Claro, esta parte es importante, efectivamente, porque nos están diciendo de a la hora de configurar una nave, ¿vale? Que aparte de ver todo lo que es los menús que hay como una especie de perspectiva 3D, nos están diciendo de que lo que están haciendo aquí, la intención que tienen es unificar la forma de trabajar, ¿no? Con las naves a lo largo de Star Citizen. Entonces entiendo que lo que vamos a ver aquí va a ser una probadita del futuro del Asset Manager, quizás, para poder equipar nuestras naves. Pinta interesante.
patch notes are now included in the game, so you have quick and easy access to see everything that's changed about Arena Commander in detail since the last patch. We're also excited to say that we're working on widescreen support. It's still a work in progress and we're hoping to get it in for this release, but I wanted to let everyone know that we're working on that. To the right is social menus, it's friends list, notifications and party, and that takes us into the new lobby system, which we've completely refactored. This new lobby
Vale, el sistema de lobby que lo han rehecho por completo y aparte de que o sea, con respecto a Arena Commander y aparte que nos están comentando de que están trabajando en dar soporte a las pantallas ultra wide, los 21 novenos, los 32 novenos, etcétera. Y que si no consiguen sacarlo ahora, o sea, a tiempo, que sepamos que están trabajando en ello de forma activa.
system utilizes the friends and party system, which you all know from Star Citizen in the PU, and works in tandem with it rather than separately. You'll be able to invite people straight from your friends list or your party into your Arena Commander lobby or squad. This new lobby system is faster, more reliable, and hopefully be a much better experience than what you're used to. And it lets you play with the people you want to play with, get into groups faster and easier than ever before. So once you click launch, you'll go straight into the game, and the first thing you're going to notice is the new spawn screen, which is on almost every mod.
The new spawn screens are our way of essentially making sure that once you're in game, you can do things that you couldn't do before in their.
Esto es interesante, o sea, después de haber pasado por el proceso de party, que bueno, que como ya hemos visto, pues sigue el mismo sistema que tenemos para entrar al universo persistente, nos están diciendo de que ahora tendremos la oportunidad de seleccionar un punto de spawn. Y además vemos que hay el tema para el asiento del piloto y del copiloto. Interesante.
Arena Commander. You'll be able to change your ship, you'll be able to change your loadout in game. All of these things are going to be things that you can do with the new spawn screen.
Claro, aparte que dice que vamos a ser capaces de cambiar nuestra configuración de nave dentro del juego, seleccionar el asiento, y todas estas cosas las vamos a poder hacer dentro del juego.
All of these things are going to be things that you can do with the new spawn screen. It's the way that you can see the battlefield from above without having to actually get into the game. It's essentially our way of making sure that the player knows everything they need to know before they start shooting.
So what's great about this new spawn screen, among many things, it finally lets us bring multi-crew to Arena Commander. You'll be able to party up with friends and join their ships in free flight, both swarm modes and squadron battles.
You can just.
Ok, tanto en Squadron Battles como en Pirate Swarm, a ver.
Flight, both swarm modes.
En Pirate Swarm y en Baldur Swarm, en ambos modos de enjambre. Y tanto en el Squadron Battle vamos a ser capaces de poder aparecer con un compañero en la nave, seleccionando la torreta.
And squadron battles.
You can just click on their ship and just jump straight into it. No longer do you have to awkwardly park next to each other and then get into the other player's ship. You can just spawn directly into the turret of that person's vehicle.
So for now, for these combat modes, you'll be locked into your seat, but I'm personally super excited for eventually having engineer.
A ver un momentito.
And get into the other player's ship. You can just spawn directly into the turret of that person's vehicle.
So for now, for these combat modes, you'll be locked into your seat.
Claro, dice, para los modos de combate por ahora estaremos fijados en el asiento, pero no puedo esperar para ver los modos de ingeniería y demás en el futuro, creo que está comentando eso.
But I'm personally super excited for eventually having engineering gameplay also in Arena Commander and laying the foundations with this spawn screen. It leads into that. And this is just the first step. We're excited to eventually work on engineering and combined arms gameplay for these modes as well. So let's start looking at maps, new and old, starting with the New Horizon Speedway. So the whole New Horizon Speedway has been moved to green, the third planet of the Ellis system.
For New Horizon Speedway, we now have our own entire planet just for Arena Commander. It has its own atmospherics. It's a fully fledged planet, essentially, which we've worked with the planet team on. We have our own biomes, it even has beaches, although you may not win the race if you do try and see them.
And this represents the first time that we have real atmospheric racing in Arena.
Están hablando del Horizon Speedway, que ahora tienen un planeta entero, único y exclusivamente para el Arena Commander, de momento, en lo que tendremos pues atmósfera y demás. Bueno, ya estáis viendo cómo es.
Commander, but be careful. We're still experimenting with wind and weather, but it's too early to say exactly where it's going to land. So the New Horizon Speedway now has 4 tracks, starting with Rickard Memorial Raceway. It's the least unchanged of the bunch. It played pretty well, we thought. We added more checkpoints, and that's just about it for Rickard. Moving on to Old Vanderval, it's the easiest, shortest of all the tracks. We've cleaned.
Claro, Horizon Speedway, aquí estamos hablando de que hay 4 posibles rutas, por lo que está comentando, que han añadido un montón han añadido un montón de circuitos, siendo algunos más cortos y otros más largos.
Cleaned up some of the cheeky little shortcuts that you guys found, and that big dive in the middle of the map where you go right down in between all these buildings. We've expanded that across, and you now curve all the way around a giant pillar in this large curved dive now, which we feel is a really good place for that map. It's still the shortest of all the tracks, but it will seem longer due to atmospheric flight. Next is Defford Link. It's the longest and hardest of all the tracks, and it's a complete rework from the ground up.
It's kind of designed as a sort of endurance test where you are flying between, obviously, all of the buildings in New Horizon Speedway, but it's not really about those tight corners or heavy, sharp turns. It's about making sure that you don't crash. It's about making sure that you can keep that good race line through the entire map, essentially. Deford is our most difficult map and has been from the beginning and still is now.
It's really a dance with atmosphere with this map. You are going around, zigzagging around buildings, down, corkscrewing around, barrel rolling. My favorite part is the vertical corkscrew and the dive down right at the end before that home stretch back to the finish line. So Halloran Circuit is the 4th edition to the New Horizons Speedway collection. It's primarily inspired by snowboarding. So you're going to see a giant half pipe that expands the entire level, where you're going to have to really test your limits, test your drifting, get those rear engines at the back so you can go down this pipe at the best speeds possible.
When I last played it,
Estaban comentando de los mapas, que los mapas no van de el anterior, por ejemplo, o sea, el primero nos han enseñado más cortito, pero debido a las condiciones atmosféricas, pues se hace un poco más largo, porque vas despacio, digamos. De lo que estábamos acostumbrados, por así decirlo, parece que se refiere a eso. Luego tenemos otro circuito que parece que nos comentan de que no va sobre hacer giros bruscos, tiros cerrados, sino también sobre todo evitar obstáculos, y que están muy contentos pues con esta que visteis al principio, que tenía como una especie de caída hacia abajo, y que están contentos con el resultado de tener que hacer una caída y luego tener que hacer un giro. Y luego este último que estamos viendo aquí, que estaría inspirado en el snowboarding, o sea, en el hacer snow.
kind of reminded me of bobsleighing, where you basically are riding on each bank using the atmospherics of the plane to basically heavily go between each of the very different buildings and hard turns that are inside of the map.
Claro, en este caso sí que habría giros bruscos en los edificios y demás. O sea, el último mapa sí que habría giros bruscos, ¿no? O sea, que están haciendo como diferentes modalidades con tanto de longitud de circuito como de formas de tener que pilotar en el circuito.
And we all just think it's really fun.
Alongside this, we also have a few PE race maps that are also coming into Arena Commander.
We've got the Snake Pit.
Esta es la iniciativa que decían que dicen que han rescatado un par de circuitos que también van a venir en Arena Commander, que uno de ellos sería el Snake Pit. Este estaría ¿cómo se llamaba? En Clio. Este estaría en Clio.
Miner's Lament.
Vale, este estaría este es el circuito que estaría en Yela.
Yadar Valley.
Vale, Yadar Valley, que también este es el que estaría en Daymar, que estos los han incorporado a la Arena Commander, ¿de acuerdo?
And Icebreaker.
Vale,
And this is your chance to go in and practice those races risk-free.
Ahí también está el Icebreaker, o sea que esto dice que además que esta es la oportunidad de poder practicar estos circuitos, ¿no? Que es una iniciativa que querían hacer, el hecho de que pudiéramos probar esto, o sea, poner un escenario para que la gente pudiera practicar ahí sin tener que matarse, porque como dijeron al principio, pues cada vez la muerte será más importante, y poder practicar este tipo de cosas en Arena Commander pues es clave para poder acelerar el aprendizaje, ¿no?
In addition to the race maps, we also have several dogfighting maps coming to Arena Commander.
Starting with Jericho Station and Security Post Korea. Jericho Station is the most lightweight of all of these. It's the first PU location that we actually took into Arena Commander, and that is because it is lightweight. There's no planetary bodies around, so it was the easiest for us to get.
Dice que han metido en el tema de Dogfight, han metido Carea y han metido también Jericho Station, y que además aparecía en el reporte mensual, en el roadmap de ayer. Vimos cómo está introducido, planeado eso para la 3.20, que seguramente, como digo, salga de cara al 21 de octubre. Y dice que este fue el primero por la sencillez, porque no tiene cuerpos planetarios y que está en medio del espacio, ¿no?
Get started with. It's just a beautiful location. You see some nebulas off in the background, and I don't know about you, but I've been there a lot with Xenofret, so it's a familiar battleground for me.
Essentially allows you to playtest fighting other people and AI around that station in Arena Commander, like you were just in the PU doing it instead. It's once again another way of having that risk-free practice, as well as providing the players finally a much more open and less cluttered dogfighting map in Arena Commander.
Están comentando de que en este caso, pues tendremos la oportunidad de practicar tanto contra NPCs como contra otros jugadores en un espacio que es bastante limpio. En general, que no hay obstrucciones como nubes o como escombros, que no hay nada, ¿no? Que es bastante limpio esta zona para practicar. Y aparte, pues el poder practicar aquí permite no tener los riesgos que supone hacer este tipo de cosas en el universo persistente.
It also let us address some of the feedback that we got from the community and developers alike, that we needed an arena which was clear of debris and just very lightweight, high performance for people to dogfight and blow up.
With the inclusion of security post-Korea, it means we also have a map now which has turrets. We can essentially use those turrets to add more to the gameplay whilst you're fighting amongst yourselves and against other AI. It gives us the ability to add new modes which use those turrets more effectively. So you're not just fighting against players, you're fighting against the map itself.
So you're probably asking yourself, why these two locations out of everything in the verse? It's because we had to start somewhere, and Jericho Station is the simplest of all the locations.
Está comentado también que la introducción de Carea, pues también tendrá el tema de las torretas que nos disparan y que ahora pues no solo pelearemos contra jugadores o contra NPCs que haya por ahí, sino también contra el propio terreno, o sea, el propio mapa, ¿no? Que tendremos que reventar torretas y demás, o sea, podremos hacerlo, ¿no?
In the PU, there's no planetary bodies. It had nebulas that we had to bring in, but otherwise pretty simple. With everything that we take from the PU, it's to address these challenges. We want to overcome these, so right now it's not a simple copy-paste job, but hopefully in the future this pipeline that we've made is a lot faster, and we can get a lot more maps from the PU, and this is just the start.
Están comentando que ahora no es una tarea sencilla el tema de poder... Bueno, aparte de que el tema de las torretas de cara y tal, que eso también servirá para ajustarla, o sea, tendrán que ajustar el comportamiento de las torretas con eso, ¿no? Con este mapa. Y comentan que ahora mismo la tarea no es simplemente un copia y pega, pero esperan que en el futuro puedan acelerar más este proceso para poder meter más partes del universo persistente en el Commander.
And the last dogfighting map, which I'm super excited to talk about, is we finally have a dogfighting map in Atmosphere.
New Horizon Arena is based on the very map that we've put all of those race ships into, but instead of just speeding around it trying to get the best time, instead you're going to be fighting amongst yourselves in the Atmosphere, finally.
Dice que finalmente tenemos un mapa de dogfight en atmósfera y que pues la zona de las carreras de New Horizon que se ha hecho, que aquí no lo comentan, pero creo que esto es Elis 3, el planeta, si no recuerdo mal. Y bueno, pues dice que finalmente tenemos un mapa de combate atmosférico en la arena.
I know you've been asking for this for so long. Fighting in Atmosphere, as you know, brings unique challenges. It's a lot higher skill ceiling, and it's where most of the fights happen in the PU, so bringing atmospheric dogfighting into Arena Commander was an important step for us. As far as game modes that can be played here, it's all of them. And we're excited to see how players handle it.
You'll be able to do every single dogfighting mode available.
You can play Pirate Swarm, Vandal Swarm, Squadron Battle, Duel, and Battle Royale.
Están todos los modos de juego disponibles que tengan que ver con navas. Los enjambres, está también el tema de Squadron Battle y también el todos contra todos y el de equipos, ¿no?
So talking about Pirate Swarm, we've also got an update coming for that. This update includes a new final boss wave. You're now going to be experiencing a capital battle between pirates and UEE.
A ver, un momento.
Pirate Swarm, Vandal Swarm,
hablando
Duel, and Battle Royale.
Hablando del Pirate Swarm, que van a meter una oleada nueva.
So talking about Pirate Swarm, we've also got an update coming for that. This update includes a new final boss wave. You're now going to be experiencing a capital battle between pirates and UEE, and you're stuck in the middle.
Vamos a ver unas hostias entre naves capitales de los piratas y de la UE, y nosotros vamos a estar en el medio.
So as you get to that 10th wave, the pirate fleet warp in. It consists of 2 hammerheads, 4 cutlass blacks, 6 gladiuses, and a pirate Idris. And your objective...
Estamos viendo ahí que son unas cuantas hammerhead, cutlass black y una Idris.
Here is to simply survive. So as those pirates come in, the UE also send in 2 F8 Lightnings to come and help you. Those F8s inform you that a UE fleet is on their way to help you, but you have to survive those 2 minutes for them to reach you in time. Once the timer ends, a UE fleet consisting of 8 additional F8 light
Hostia. Dice, una vez, o sea, lo que tenemos que hacer es sobrevivir durante 2 minutos a esas hostias. Vamos a recibir el apoyo de 2 F8.
cannons, 6 Gladiuses, and 2 Javelins come out of warp and start
Aparte de otras naves, como son 6 Gladios y tal, pues tenemos 2 Javelins que vienen en Warp
pummeling into that pirate fleet
y que pondrán un punto final a esa flota pirata.
and helping you towards victory. This update comes with a new Spectrum badge, so you've got a couple more weeks to get the old one before that gets switched out.
Aparte de esto, nos están diciendo de que este evento viene con una nueva chapa de Arena Commander, así que tenemos, hasta que salgan esto, tenemos ese tiempo para poder conseguir la chapa antigua de Pirate Swarm, que si no recuerdo se llama Pirate Aggressor. Pirate Aggressor me parece que es. O sea que si queréis esa chapita, chavales, tenéis que darle caña.
These rewards are only obtainable in multiplayer, so make sure you hop into multiplayer before the update so you can get that Pirate Aggressor badge.
Claro, si queremos conseguir la chapa de Pirate Aggressor antes de que pongan la nueva, recordar que tenemos que hacerlo en modo multiplayer.
The new version, we're introducing a new badge that you'll be able to get starting from the release. So there's also duel mode. It's a 1v1 dogfighting mode. Previously,
Nos están comentando de que la nueva versión, tan pronto como salga, seremos capaces de conseguir la nueva chapa en el momento que salga.
would kill your enemy and just continue on. Now we've added rounds, so after you get that kill, you're going to respawn, fully equipped, rearmed, ready for the next fight. And don't worry, I've got you. We're working on leaderboards. It'll take a little bit extra time, but we'll get there.
A ver un momento.
Don't worry, I've got you. We're working on leaderboards. It'll take a little bit extra time, but we'll get there.
Vale, y dice, en el tema del 1 versus 1, ahora cada vez que... o sea, será por rondas, cada vez que terminemos la ronda respawnaremos y apareceremos totalmente armados y equipados nuevamente. Y estamos trabajando en las leaderboards, o sea, que estamos en ello, ¿no? Que no os preocupéis, que estamos trabajando en unas leaderboards para el 1 versus 1, supongo.
And the last of our mode updates is something called experimental modes, but we're going to touch on that a bit more next week.
Y lo último es el modo experimental, pero que dice que del modo experimental de Arena Commander nos hablarán la semana que viene.
So there's a few more additions coming to Arena Commander, including the Def Cam and Def Recap. You'll be able to view the action after you die rather than it point to the ground. This new Def camera will point out your opponent rather than being this static camera that just zooms off into the abyss. It recaps everything that you did in that life, so damage you dealt to enemies, damage you received, and how you died. We're also iterating on the scoreboard, so we're adding right
A ver un momento.
that you did Cam and Def Recap. You'll be able to view the action after you die rather than it point to the ground. This new Def camera will point out your opponent rather than being this static camera that just zooms off into the abyss. It recaps everything that you did in that life, so damage you dealt to enemies, damage you received, and how you died.
Están diciendo de que van a poner una cámara de muerte en la que puedas ver, o sea, puedes hacer una recapitulación de cómo ha sido el combate, para ver el daño que has hecho, el daño que has recibido. O sea, no sé si será una cámara rollo para que veas realmente lo que ha pasado en el combate, ¿no?
We're also iterating on the scoreboard, so we're adding right-click options, so you can mute, add friends, add squad up together using the new lobby system.
Además, están diciendo que en lo que es la pantalla, para cuando veas la partida, puedes invitar a la peña, mutear jugador, enviar requests.
We also fixed that really annoying issue
Depende de dónde
where,
está.
you know, your teammates appear in the other team in the scoreboard, even though they're not in the actual game, as well as, you know, all the other things that came along with, you know, the round system and stuff that wasn't really cooperating with it. So those are all fixed up now, thankfully. We've also updated scoring, so now the score will change based on the rating of your opponent, so you get more reward if you're killing, you know, the rank 1 player versus someone that's brand new to Arena Commander. Repeatedly killing.
Aparte, está comentando de que conseguiremos más puntos si matamos a alguien que tiene experiencia en el juego con respecto a una persona que es nueva, ¿no?
The same player is going to give you less score
A la hora de las puntuaciones de las tablas.
to, you know, stop that cheating going on. And if you try,
Un momento.
is going to give you less score to, you know, stop that cheating going on.
Aparte dice que las muertes repetidas sobre un mismo objetivo te dará cada vez menos puntos para evitar las trampas que están sucediendo en ese sentido.
And if you try to leave a game early, it's going to give you an early leaver punishment.
Y si tratas de abandonar el juego antes de que termine, te dará un castigo por abandonar el juego antes de que termine.
So that's just some of the goodies we've got coming with 320 in dogfighting and racing. I'm excited to be returning next week to talk to you about FPS combat and some of the additions we're adding to those modes, as well as experimental modes. Bye.
Dice, estoy deseando que llegue la semana que viene para poder hablaros de el combate FPS y de los experimental modes, los modos experimentales.
Woo! I'll do the woo again. See you next week.
Nos vemos la semana que viene.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that true atmospheric flight is coming to Arena Commander for both racing and fighting modes. That locations from the persistent universe are being brought into the simulation to let you test your metal easier than ever before. That this becomes more and more important and valuable as the PU continues to move closer to the death of a spaceman in the future. And that all of this would already be the biggest update Arena Commander has ever seen, but there's even more stuff coming next week as we look at Star Marine editions, including Tonk Royale and the implementation of experimental modes.
Oh, Dios mío. Oh, Dios mío. Dice, la semana que viene, bueno, aparte que los hemos mostrado de cómo traemos las cosas al PU y tal, la semana que viene hablaremos del tema de FPS y los experimental modes, incluyendo Tonk Royale. Batalla de tanques, chavales. Batalla de tanques. Oh, Dios mío.
That aim to return Arena Commander to the feature and technology testbed it was once intended to be. And then, back in the PU, I hear there's a jump town going on at the moment. Oh, I sure hope it's safe. For Inside Star...
Y volviendo al tema del PU, me parece que está activo Jumptown ahora mismo. Esperemos que sea seguro, que sea safe. Jumptown safe.
Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for exploring the process of game development with us, and we'll see you all here next week.
A ver, que vamos a mirar aquí una cosita. Thanks for watching. A ver si hay alguna cosilla más. A ver.
Should we have moved the plant? That's done. It's time to pwn some noobs.
Pero qué cojones. Vaya tela. Vamos a ver una cosilla que estaba por aquí. Que lo pusieron antes de terminar.
You'll be much in game.
Changed about Arena Commander in D.
Aquí.
Everything. So patch notes are now included.
Frontend unificado, Electronic Access y Star Marine junto con... Vale, han sido unificados. New Lobby, Squad System, vale. Experimental Modes. Es súper genial que hayas pausado el vídeo aquí para leer las notas de parche también. Esperemos que podamos tener algún vistazo en algo que quizás no sea mencionado en el SC. Pero no... pero nosotros no hemos tirado de los hilos de esos hilos todavía. Solo son un placeholder, pero no te preocupes. Los experimental modes hablaremos de ellos la semana que viene. En el episodio de la semana que viene. Qué trolacos, tío. Vaya trolacos. Qué trolacos, tío. En fin. Ay, Omar. Si es que vaya tela, A ver.